Hey everybody, this is TJR.
This is Superfan.
And this arrived today.
It's a mystery box.
Yes, well, I'm sure they know what it is because if they've clicked on the video, they've already seen the thumbnail, and that was a dead giveaway. But we're going to open this package up.
Enemy of fun.
Hopefully it's what I think it is, of course. You never know, it might be shoes. But,
it might be those fun videos you ordered.
Those what? Hey! There we go.
Oh wait, was I not supposed to tell everybody about your secrets?
Well, you're supposed to buy those for me. That's what you're supposed to do.
Oh.
But, yeah.
Is that how that works?
Yeah. So I know that I talked about the fact that I was going to concentrate on, by and large, my vinyl purchases would be used, vintage versus new. But I decided to get these simply because all my research showed that these are really hard to get.
And this was the cheapest way to get them.
Probably the least expensive way to get them, yeah. And which guarantees, now that I've gotten these today,
you'll find them for a quarter a piece.
This guarantees, yeah, I'll find them used somewhere at a steal. So what we have here is the first two albums by Love and Rockets. Does anyone out there remember who Love and Rockets were? And if you don't, for those of you who's not raising your hands, Love and Rockets was an offshoot of Bauhaus.
Yes.
And same members except for the absence of Bauhaus lead singer Peter Murphy, with guitarist Daniel Ash taking the lead vocal spot. And interesting, they packaged one in a separate box, but the other one they just simply put on top without any additional packaging. So I guess Amazon did a halfway good job. They put this all in a box, but they really should have put this in its own separate package like they did this one. So let's take a look at this one first, since this is already out of the box. And here is The Seventh Dream of Teenage Heaven. This was their first album, but it was not the first album that I heard by them. We've got a little hype sticker. It says here, their darkly psychedelic debut, album originally released in 1985. The first album I would hear by them, though, would be this one here. Let's go ahead and pull this one open here. There we go. And that would be this one here. And this is the one that's really hard to get used. Basically, you can't find it unless you're willing to pay quite a bit for it. So yeah, cheaper to get it this way here. This is Love and Rockets Express. There we go. Hype sticker here. The band's second album, originally released in 1986. So yeah, this is where I first got introduced to the band. And I should talk a little bit about how I discovered them. Let me first ask you, you were a K-Rock listener back in the day, and you probably heard them on the radio, I'm suspecting, is where you first heard of them.
Yeah.
Whereas what I did is, as a musician who was out there, trying to make it happen, one magazine that I was picking up every issue of was Music Connection magazine, which was and still is a Southern California music industry magazine, kind of
Southern California based
music industry magazine. You didn't see it too much outside of Southern California, although I'm sure there might have been people who were in the music industry, not living in Southern California, who would subscribe to it, because it pretty much was the Southern California music industry Bible, that magazine.
Yeah.
If you were trying to be a professional musician and you wanted to do more than just play cover gigs, that sort of thing, if you had any aspirations at all of making it big time in the music industry, you really wanted to subscribe to Music Connection magazine. I assume it's still out there, that it's still being published, but they had album reviews in the back of each issue. And there was a review for Express. And I was rather struck by thank you, I appreciate that. I was rather struck by the way the critic opened his review for this album, which was called Express. And he opened it with a quote, a Beatles quote, the lyrics to Magical Mystery Tour. He wrote, step all aboard, step right up for the Magical Mystery Tour. He just basically quoted the opening lines for Magical Mystery Tour. Then he quoted the opening lines of the title track of this album, Express. All aboard the Express Kundalini. All aboard the Express Kundalini. And that kind of intrigued me, just the Beatles comparison. And I picked up the album, not knowing anything about the Bauhaus connection, and really was struck by the creativity and the kind of the psychedelic sound, and not a throwback to the '60s, but definitely an '80s album. Definitely, a kind, and I guess you would describe it as kind of a gothic psychedelia. Bauhaus being a gothic band. Actually, Bauhaus really one of the pioneers of goth rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the pioneering bands. So what's happening is their entire catalog is getting re-released on vinyl. The band is reforming. No announcement of any new material being released or a new album, but they will be playing their first live gig in over 15 years, I think, roughly.
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Don't quote me. But at the Cruel World Festival. They'll be appearing there with a number of other 80s groups like Susie and the Banshees. And
Yeah, I wish I could go.
when I first picked this up, I actually had it on cassette. And then later I got it on CD, although the CD was a remix and it wasn't the way I knew the album. And I was kind of thrown off by that. Later they would release it on CD again, and they would release it with the original mix. The same for
the original order, you mean?
Well, no, also the original mix. They actually there was a CD release when it first came out. When both these albums first came out on CD, they were remixed. They sounded. I remember I played them. I thought these don't sound right, and I realized they'd been completely remixed, which I didn't care for. I wanted the original mix that I knew.
I don't think I had the CDs back in the day. I don't know.
I initially picked it up on cassette. This album, anyways. The second album, however, I found it used and picked it up for a song back then as a used record,
I have the Bubbleman EP somewhere.
which was a little side thing they did. But here's the jackets here. The jacket here has some very nice artwork on it. I'll show you that, and lyrics. Let's take a look. I also found out that they had released a box set of their entire catalog, only available on their website, and had it all on various colored vinyls, each one. But these are just on black vinyl. But that box set is all sold out. Also, not sure I would have picked up the box set, since for me, I kind of lost interest after their third album, Earth, Sun, Moon, which is going to be released next, which I liked. But the album after that, which was a self-titled album, I listened to it and didn't care for it. It had the hit single So Alive, which was another song that just didn't really appeal to me at the time. But here we go, the second album, Express. And let's go ahead here and take a look at the first album. Yeah, I would later find this at a used record store and picked up the first album. And again, when they released it when I found it on CD, it was a remix. It didn't sound the same. And then they released it again later on with the original mix. Here we go.
That's a gatefold.
Yeah, this is a gatefold. We'll open this up here. Ah, yes, and this is the gatefold I remember. I've seen other versions of the gatefold where it has a band photo on the inside, but this is the one I remember with this very psychedelic artwork here. And I know when this band, later I would read that when they released their first album, the music press just assumed it would be a gothic sounding album because it was, the same members as Bauhaus, but without the lead singer. And instead it was this very psychedelic album. Of the two, actually, I think this is the one I like the best. Though they're both really good. And then there's Earth, Sun, and Moon. Yeah. Which even Earth, Sun, and Moon at times, not always, but at times sounded even a little bit Beatlesque. And let's go ahead here. Just pull this one out here.
Then they did the Bubbleman EP,
Yeah,
which was essentially a side project.
which I don't think I've ever heard. I don't think I was aware of it at the time until you told me about it later.
And
And
when I saw them live at Universal Amphitheater, which is going into the Wayback Machine,
yeah,
what is now Harry Potter Land at Universal Studios,
yeah,
the Bubblemen actually, they came out in their Bubbleman costume and performed.
the Bubbleman costumes. Let me go ahead here and just put this away for a moment here. I want to kind of confirm that with you here. One thing though, if I don't know, maybe I remember it wrong, but I seem to remember these gatefold images being somewhat embossed or having like a slight three-dimensional quality to them. I could be wrong. I could be remembering it wrong. But yeah, I remember I had this on as a record because I could get it for a song. Used records were going very cheap by that time, by the mid to late 80s. Because everybody was just wanting to get CDs. And here we go. But the Bubblemen were these little characters that we see in this one piece of artwork where they're wearing like these bee costumes. I'll show those right there. Am I right about that? The little bee characters? Yeah.
And I think we can probably drop a better picture in.
I'm sure we can. But yeah, I was just really intrigued by this group. I remember the 80s was a period where I did not like a lot of what was coming out. I liked some of it. I embraced some acts like Elvis Costello, Devo, but there were other acts that I just had a certain amount of disdain for, which later I would learn to appreciate. But I think that's just a common thing that you experience. You grow up with one era of rock and you tend to reject other eras that come afterwards. Thankfully, I've learned to discard those prejudices and just try to listen to everything with open ears. But yeah, these were two really good albums. I'm looking forward to Earth, Sun, and Moon coming out and trying to pick up that one too. I'm not sure if Earth, Sun, and Moon ever got an LP release. By that time, it may have just been all CDs and cassettes.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it may not have. That may be the case. We'll see. I'll have to do a little research on that. But yeah.
Here's a better picture of the Bubblemen. A little larger.
Oh, okay.
Although I'm sure you could do a screen
Yes,
grab.
I remember seeing photos of this. We'll drop this picture in here so you can take a look at it. We'll just drop that. Yeah, that's them actually wearing the costumes. And they would perform in those costumes, actually?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Huh. But anyways, though.
I saw it happen.
Yeah. So looking forward to hearing these and checking them out. Compare them to my CD versions. And let us know if you had any experiences with this band, listening to them, what you thought of them. If you've never heard Love and Rockets, definitely want to at least recommend these first two albums, especially Seventh Dream. I think it's really just a beautiful, ethereal piece of work. And this one's a little more propulsive, but still just very cool 80s psychedelia. I don't think anyone's ever used that term before, so I'm coining it right now. 80s psychedelia. There we go. All right. Thanks so much for hanging out. And as always, if you like these videos, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification icon. And thank you, patron supporters. We greatly appreciate you.
You're fierce and mighty.
Patron supporters receive exclusive weekly videos not available here on the channel. And if you'd like to be a patron supporter, go to patreon.com/TJR the original. If you can't be a patron supporter, I understand, totally. You can always just hit the super thanks button if you'd like to show a little extra support, or just hit like, and that helps a great deal. Helps this channel immensely. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.